This fight to him, I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from their claw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
Welcome to Bodywork. Welcome back. It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to Bodywork Boxing. It's almost time to put away the knives and the pitchforks and break out the hot wings and the popcorn. Because courtesy of one Gervonta Tank Davis, once again, it's on. And there's always a lot of narratives surrounding a young guy in his career, but sometimes you gotta tune out the noise, and you gotta keep your eyes on what's really going on. This is another PBC fight, and a lot of people, have been swirling narratives around them. Heard one earlier. But when you keep your eyes on it and, the level of professionalism that they have and how they roll out their products, I've been looking at the build up and the lead up, and I don't think that a lot of fans are really understanding what's really going on. I'm surprised to hear some of my hardcores talk about these fights that's coming up. I'm surprised. I'm not really surprised by casual media and the narratives they're painting. But I think that this card is grossly underrated. Now, it is coming on the back of a major card that had a whole lot of names, and that turned out to be a good card, a really good, solid, decent card. But I think, a combination of some of the things that people try to paint about this particular entity and, not everybody knowing every single solitary name on the card, I think that a lot of things are falling by the wayside. We already know about the main event. We know what Tank coming to do. People are acting like they don't know who Lamont Roach is, even though they know who Jamel Herring is. And one of the main points is, he lost to Jermaine Herring. So it's like, who he is. He bounced back and he got a belt. That's a DMV fight. Much like when Canelo said he wasn't going to fight any Mexicans and he turned around in Fort Munguia and he said, that's my brethren and all this stuff and all that. Well, this is what Tank doing. Because the card is highly representative of the DMV area, from the fighters. Now, for my people who are chasing legacy or like legacy things, you got 4 championship bouts, right? For my people who like the pure boxer, you got a fight between Alberto Puello, who is now a 2-time champ, who beat a boogeyman, and Mr. Gary Antoine Russell, going against Sandor Martin, who also arguably beat, it didn't go that way on the scorecards, but arguably beat Teofimo Lopez. He dropped him twice, didn't get accounted for a knockdown. You got those two going head up, and it's real interesting because they both really beat 2 guys that people highly respect in the 140-pound division. And it's also, these are 2 guys to where when the belt that Devin Haney had, which was the WBC, when Alberto Puello and Gary Antoine fought for that belt, and Puello came out the victor, Devin Haney didn't want that. Sandor Martin is also the same guy who was his mandatory and inherited mandatory by Regis that he didn't want to fight either. So I think that that's a chess match with 2 very highly skilled boxers. So that's for my boxers, Then I heard a narrative mainly by the Latin voice today. And they basically said that Al Heyman doesn't like Latino fighters. I was like, wow, that's kind of hard when everybody on the main card except for the main event entails a Latino fighter. But you know why this narrative comes about? It comes about because El Rayo, Venezuela, who shared the ring and dusted off Chris Colbert. The first one was controversial. I know in my household we were split between who won. My lady thought El Rayo won. I thought Colbert won at the time. El Rayo spent the block and got rid of Chris Colbert. But then you also have Gary Antoine Russell, who was highly avoided, throughout the division, was the quote-unquote boogeyman. He's in my boxes to watch. I call him the Butcher. He got upset by Alberto Puello the same night that Tank actually sparked Frank Martin, and the same night that Liam Paro, who was the former IBF champion, was able to beat the boogeyman in Subriel Matias, who nobody wanted to fight, right? So you got El Rayo sharing history with De Los Santos and getting stopped by De Los Santos, but then coming back, getting a belt, getting a belt with Cruz, and a lot of people didn't think he was going to be able to do it, but he pulled it out. He showed finesse. He showed that he's progressing along, and if you look at it, his resume is actually becoming really seasoned. But I think that the narrative around this is that they feel a little bit nervous for El Rayo, and instead of saying that, they want to paint a narrative that Al Heyman don't like Latino fighters. One of the most ridiculous things I've heard of recently, but that's a very good fight because El Rayo might have the quicker hands, right? But Gary Antoine is a relentless body puncher. He likes to impose his will. He will bum rush you. He will bully you. He will use his physicality. So in the physicality area, I give it to Gary Antoine. In hand speed, I give it to El Rayo. But they both have power, right? IQ, kind of hard to judge who has the better IQ. I guess we'll see that on that night. But nobody really knows what's going to happen in that fight. People from the DMV area are going for Gary Antoine. You got the whole Latin community going for El Rayo. Some of us just want to see a good fight, want to see if Rayo can retain his title, want to see if Gary Antoine can actually become a champion and what lies after that, right? We also have a fight where, you got Julius J. Rock. He's fighting Yoenis Tellez, which is a Cuban fighter. And they're trying to see, because another narrative is that PBC doesn't, they don't have any prospects and they don't groom prospects and this and that. But they are actually grooming Yoenis Tellez. And it looked like the man got dynamite in his gloves. He's going up against Julius J. Rock, who actually, he put on one of the best clinics I had ever seen when he fought Jared Hurd, a few years back, coming off of Ramadan fasting when his mind, body, and spirit were all sharp and crispy, man. I mean, I like his boxing skills. Some people may say, man, he don't have it no more. I don't think that. I think that this is an opportunity to show him that, hey, man, this guy don't belong in the ring. But it's also Yoenis Tellez spotlight time to actually show that he actually belongs. He's saying he's here to stay. He sounds like a gangster speaking in his tongue that he's speaking in, but that's a very interesting fight. But for Al Heyman not to like Latino fighters, there sure are a lot on the card. Almost every fight has a Latino fighter in it almost. Then you had a main event, right? Two DMV legends in their own right, getting it on. You got Barry Hunter, you got Coach Calvin, you got Lamont Roach Sr., you got Coach Kenny probably in the mix somewhere, doing this thing. And they're up in the Barclays Center, where the DMV can travel very well to that fight, right? And a lot of people are underestimating Lamont Roach, and they are giving Tank the business for cherry picking, even though Lamont Roach is a champion, right? And I'm not going to touch on that too much, but they're pretty evenly sized. There may be a skill deficit, but you already know who I got in that fight. I like Lamont Roach. I was praying that the boxing gods didn't rob him up against Hector Garcia, and they didn't. He wound up going to get a knockdown. And I think that Lamont Roach is coming to fight, but when you're dealing with Tank, it's pretty much going to be night-night. Anyways, I wanted to touch bases and let everybody know that there's a little something for everybody on this card. You got a skilled chess match with Alberto Puello and Sandor Martin, right? You got a green print fight between Gary Antoine and El Rayo, right? You also have Tank Davis fighting the Reaper, Roach, you know, to send the whole ordeal off into the atmosphere to close the show. But I think that this card is underrated, man. I really do. And it would behoove you to actually watch this, to sit back and enjoy this, and to silence all of the noise surrounding this fight and these fights. Get your popcorn early, sit down and look at how PBC does things, from the commentary to how professional it is, to the animated, play calling or fight calling that they have, and then how everything rolls out, man. I always like their productions, and I want to get your thoughts on it. What you think about it? Are you overlooking this card? Will you be tuning into this card? What do you think about the outcome of some of these fights? Let me know in my comment section. Anyways, thanks for tuning in here with Bodywork Boxing. But we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.